Welcome to Whisking It All with your host, Angela Esposito, co-founder of Whisk.ai, a food and beverage intelligence platform. We're going to be interviewing hospitality professionals around the world to really understand how they do what they do. So welcome to another episode of Whisking It All. We're here today with the CEO of TinyMile or tinymile.ai, Ignacio, and I don't want to butcher your last name, Ignacio Tartavul. Ignacio, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. That was a perfect pronunciation.
Amazing. So for people who don't know, can you tell them what is TinyMile?
Yeah, we do delivery. So this last mile delivery, they're used to. We take food from restaurants and deliver it to people. The only kind of like different thing is that we're using robots, and we're doing this actually for free. And so we like this analogy of the internet. So a lot of the things in the internet are free and they're paid by advertisers, and that's our business model.
Wow. I remember actually seeing TinyMile before I even knew it was TinyMile. So I'm personally based in Miami, and I've seen these robots on the street. I had no idea what it was, but I've seen them on the street. So it's pretty cool that, now that I got connected to you, I'm like, oh, wow, he's the guy behind these robots on the street. So just for our guests to visualize, there's these actual robots just fully autonomous driving from the restaurant, delivering it to someone's house, last mile delivery. But it's one thing to just hear delivery. It's another thing to see the robot moving on its own, crossing the street, and you're like, this is insane.
It's pretty mind blowing. I'm based in Toronto. I go to Miami often, and every time I'm there and I'm walking to the office, I'm, let's say, 20 blocks away, I always encounter a few robots before I make it. And people are always like blown away when they see it cross the streets. Everybody's like taking pictures and so on. So it's impossible to not walk in the office with a smile on your face.
That's awesome, man. So I'd love to hear, like, obviously that's super technical, super advanced, right? We're talking robots, last mile delivery. So maybe to take a couple steps back, like, I'd love to hear more about your background. How did you end up wanting to do, this? So tell me a bit about Ignacio.
Yeah. I'm not going to go too far because I don't want to bore you, but before this, I was building autonomous vehicles. And I was part of a very large company who was responsible for the death of a pedestrian in Arizona. And that was a bit of the wake-up call for me. Because in 2018, if you were to read TechCrunch or any of these magazines, it really felt that self-driving cars were around the corner. Tons of money was invested at the time, and it really felt that the technology was going to be ready within months. But when that happened, that's really when I started reading and studying the history of self-driving cars. And there were early attempts in the early 90s and late 1980s. And it really felt that they were very close at the time. There was this car that went from, I think it was like Copenhagen to Berlin. It did this like 400 kilometers, basically almost purely autonomously. And so if you, let's say in 400 kilometers, there were something like 20 interventions. So it's like 5-hour trip, and then, someone touched the wheel for 10 seconds, a few times. And so in the early 90s, it really felt like it was around the corner. Like it was like 99.999%, based on time. And of course, it's been 30 years, and the problem is still not solved.
Right.
And so my take at the time was that it was going to probably take another 10 or 20 years. And so the question was, how can we deploy this technology in a safe manner today to try to bring as much benefit to society as we can?
Wow.
And if you can build something so small, so lightweight, something that weighs 20 pounds, that it's inherently safe, then you can really just like put them on the streets today. And that's what we've done. But we still have this sort of like grandiose idea or this ambition of increasing the speed and the size of vehicles incrementally. And so now it's like 20 pounds and we'll start walking the speed. One day it's going to go on the road and it's going to go at bicycle speed, and maybe we'll win this race to the companies building trucks in 20 years. Who knows?
That's amazing. I didn't realize that that's how far back, self-driving cars went, but it makes sense and it's true. I do remember in 2018 it literally felt like it was around the corner, and apparently not, right? And what's your kind of maybe educational background? Because obviously this is something you don't just pick up on the side randomly. Like I'm assuming you studied something pretty advanced. So I'd love to hear like where'd you go to school? What did you study? Like how did you just a little more history before you landed that kind of job in that field, and what led you to this startup, this venture.
Thank you. Well, I did my bachelor's and master's in industrial engineering, which is a lot of math and optimization and so on. And when I was finishing school, that's when I got started in the AI world. That's when I heard machine learning for first time and so on. And we're talking now, it's been 15 years, maybe 10, 15 years. So it's been some time. And after that, I went and worked at a computational neuroscience lab in Princeton. And so it was a lot of slicing brains and taking pictures of these slides and doing computer vision to reconstruct it. And so that was a very large scale inference. And so a cubic millimeter of brain was like 100 petabytes of images.
Wow.
And so, let's say $100 million to process just a cubic millimeter of brain. And there's not enough disk storage in the world if you combine all computers to store a single human brain.
Wow.
And so that was like a very large scale computer vision project. We did a lot of progress. We learned, we discovered a bunch of like neurons that we didn't know we had. We learned how we store certain memories. Basically, neurons are like simple electrical circuits that
Right.
once you extract it, you can simulate it and understand it. And from there, I got to work at Uber in these autonomous vehicles in mostly mapping. And so if you have to build maps for all of North America, it's also a fairly large scale machine learning project.
Right.
Similar to the brain in some sense. And so
Right.
that's the connection.
Wow.
And from there, the story I was just telling before.
Wow. And so what led you to Toronto? Did you grow up in Toronto, or like tell me a bit about that? Like where were you based? How'd you end up in Toronto? And I'd love to understand that kind of journey.
Yeah, well, it's quite a story. So, um, I I was at Princeton again, and I wanted to go to the industry after quite a few years in academia,
Right.
and so I went. I interviewed all the big companies, and and you want to make them compete between them for salary,
Right.
and
Right.
so this is fun game to play. Everybody wants to give you their offer last so that they have the best number and so on. And so I had put certain rules that I think was like by July, all of them had to tell me their offer, and otherwise, it was not going to be considered. And so I planned everything around that. I broke my lease so that I would, make a decision by the end of the month and so on. And when I was 2 days from making the final decision, a recruiter, I believe it was like from Apple, she calls me and she said, "It turns out that your H-1B visa from Princeton is a non-profit, and we then made a mistake, and we thought that it could be transferred to Apple, but it cannot."
Oh,
And then I called
wow.
the recruiter from Amazon to double check if it was the same thing for them, and then the recruiter from Microsoft. Anyways, I had 7 offers, and they all vanished. Um,
Wow.
and then I didn't have a job anymore at Princeton, and then I didn't have a house anymore. So it's literally sleeping, first time, literally being homeless, sleeping on the streets, showering in the
Wow.
gym. And
Wow.
then I had an email in my inbox from this company from Uber from Toronto. Uh, I didn't even know where Canada was at the time, probably. Um, but I agreed to interview, and it's a super fun and interesting problem to work with.
Wow.
So it was a lucky choice.
That's crazy. Wow, that's super interesting. So when just out of curiosity, because now I'm invested in the story. When you found out the visa was expiring, like how long did you have left in the States before you had to like leave?
I think I could have technically be there for 3 months.
Okay. Shit.
and I stayed for like a month or so, month and a half.
Okay.
Um,
Wow.
yeah, it
Wow.
wasn't, it wasn't that terrible. It's not that I was like homeless in New York. I still had friends that I could like crash if
Right, right, right.
if it was raining outside, and I actually was like enjoyable just because I used to go home and watch TV from 6 p.m. until midnight. I'll go to bed. But now that I didn't have a place to sleep and I had to kill time, to get into my hammock, I would just go and do every random sport that
That's
I could sign
awesome.
up for. And so I got really fit. I met a lot of people in that month. And so
That's
it's good memories.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So I'd love to kind of, take it to the next level, which is when did, so obviously now I think our audience is getting a sense of your background. You're quite a bright guy, to put it lightly. And now I understand the passion, behind Tiny Mile, but where does the restaurant side come? So I see the autonomous, the self-driving. What made you want to solve this problem for the hospitality space?
Yeah, well, it's a huge industry. If you look at companies like DoorDash and Uber Eats and GrabCab, and those are only the companies in the US. You can go to Europe and to India and to South America. And so there's like 20 or 30 of these companies, and all of them are doing hundreds of millions of deliveries.
Hmm.
And all of them are paying, a few dollars per delivery, let's say between 5 and 10.
Yeah.
And so we're truly talking about billions and billions of dollars. And so if you can make that incredibly cheap and capture some of the value, then you can build a business.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so you got into this. You guys kind of maybe kick things off. I'd love to hear maybe the journey. Like, so now you're in Toronto. You guys have this idea. You're like, hey, I got all this knowledge on, self-driving vehicles. We see this niche, or well, more than a niche because it's a massive market, but we see this, let's call it market fit, that we want to, test. So then, what's the next step? How do you where do you go from there?
Yeah, it was a pretty humble start. So I bought this RC car from Walmart, took it to my apartment. I had a Raspberry Pi, and then I
Nice.
spent something like 2 or 3 weeks at home putting this Tupperware and writing this little website so I could drive this thing from my bedroom. And so I remember like putting it from first time on the sidewalk and then
Wow.
going back to my apartment. It was like winter and, getting back into bed and just driving around Toronto. And I was blown away that it worked basically. I drove for an
Wow.
hour. Um, and so then I started messaging people on LinkedIn and I got connected to someone who ran one of these big delivery companies in Toronto. And so I had a coffee and I told him what I had in mind, and he took a check out. He
Wow.
wrote this $5,000 check, and I was shaking. I went home and my arms were shaking, like holding this check, and I just couldn't believe that someone just wrote me a check. That would allow me to pay 2 more months of rent,
Wow.
and and that was the start. And
Wow.
we that was something like 4 years ago. So this was 2019.
Okay.
And since then we raised something like 10 million.
Wow.
So a lot bigger checks. And, the simple Tupperware RC car has been rebuilt many times by, very, very capable engineers, a lot capable than me. And now
Wow.
we have an incredible robot. It looks simple from the outside, but the years of work that has gone into, let's say, building the perfect cameras. It works, great at night and on rain. And
Hmm.
it's just the engineering behind this is absolutely mind blowing.
I can't even imagine. And I hope you kept the RC car like as a souvenir. Maybe you guys have it framed in the office or something, because that must be pretty cool.
It's funny that you ask. I am not emotionally attached to things. So I did a triathlon with my partner a couple of weeks ago, and they put the medal on me, and then we took a picture and immediately took it out of my shoulder, of my neck, and just like throw it to the garbage. And she was like, "You're a monster." It's like, can't believe you just did that. And a few months ago, we were cleaning the old office, and we had all these early prototypes, and I was just like, breaking them into pieces and put
Oh
them on the
no.
trash. But a few people were able to stop me and took some of them home,
Okay,
so they're
good.
not all gone. We have
Okay,
pictures.
good.
That's something we
Good.
have.
Amazing. Yeah, because I'm sure that to see that evolution and to look back must be so cool. Um, okay, so I love where this is going. So then talk to me about like when you got your first client, right? So right now I'm like invested. So, you go from 7 job offers that now you don't know what to do, go to Toronto, first check of 5,000, which, in retrospect is not a lot, but I know the feeling of someone believing you. And it's, as an entrepreneur, it's the best feeling ever. To go on and then raise $10 million. Now, obviously, properly investing in R&D, building this robot up, all the complexities. How do you get your first client to be like, "Hey, restaurant, I got this robot." Like the first pitch must have been a little tough. I'd love to hear like how that went.
Yeah, something that we discovered um, sometime ago, and by surprise, was the power of advertisement. We were trying to do delivery first, and our robot just wasn't as good as people. So it was slower. Humans are like 99% reliable, and our robots were 90%,
Right.
and that was just not good enough. It's 10 times worse than people. People
Right.
nobody's gonna use it and so on. And so the first like 2 or 3 years was a pretty uphill. And people kept asking us like, "Can I put my name on the side of the robot?" And we're like, "No, that's a distraction. We need to make delivery and so on." And one day we said yes, and so we had our first advertiser. That's the next day. The Strokes, this rock band I absolutely love, they go by, they take a picture of the robot, put it on the Instagram, and it gets something like 10 million likes. Um,
Wow. That company
and
must have been
that's
happy. Whoever
yeah,
advertised.
they got really lucky. And that was not an exception. Like it still happens every other week that someone makes some viral video and gets like millions and millions of views and all these
Wow.
social media platforms I'm too old to use.
Wow. So how does that model work now? Do you guys charge like a monthly fee for advertising? Is it a one-time fee? Because that's smart. They're going, multiple times a day across, and I'm assuming in high density areas. So, it's kind of a walking or a moving billboard. So how do you guys kind of think about monetizing that?
That's exactly right. Yeah. So we charge a few $1,000 per month per robot per advertiser, and
Nice.
they get their buck back. So it's a really good advertisement.
Wow.
And the other thing that happened is like now the robots are better than people at delivering, and so the reliability went super high.
Wow.
Um, and that combined with people doing a lot of batching nowadays also made our quality a lot better. And
Hmm.
so a person take 45 minutes because it goes through like 3 places. A robot is parked outside, and so there's no time to pick up. And then you put it on, and it just goes in 20 minutes at your place. And so
Wow.
super reliable and super fast. And so
That's really cool.
now, yeah, so now restaurants really want to use us for delivery as well.
That's awesome. And so, what did it look like when you got? I totally get it. Uphill battle. 90% sounds good, but compared to, like you said, a human at 99. So it's really cool that you guys have crossed that boundary or that difference, I should say. How did you guys get your first restaurant? Like, you just approached them, and like, how did you frame them, and how did you get them to give you a shot?
It was actually kind of easy. So the robot is so magnetic. Like people see them and they're blown away.
Hmm.
And so they really approach us. Like people have always come to us with crazy ideas of things they want to do. And so it's always been us saying no and being shy than the other way around. For example, now there's a bank who wants to like put a QR code on the robot so that you can scan them and open your bank account
Oh wow.
kind of on the street, and they want to put like a gift inside the robot. So you sign up there, and then you get a messy jersey on the spot. Like people always
That's
come. We get crazy ideas every day,
That's
And so
awesome. Wow.
it's hard to keep the focus. We always want to try them all.
That's funny. And so just for our listeners, I'd love to kind of like walk them through like the like just so they can visualize because it's a very visual thing. So can you walk them through like what it would look like, let's say from the restaurant's point of view, and then I guess from the clients too, like the end customer. So I'm a restaurant. I'm in, let's say, Brickell in Miami. I want to use Tiny Mile. So tell me what happens. Is the robot there? Does it come once I accept orders? Like, I'd love to understand the kind of logistics of it.
Yeah, we have optimized it and made it quite smooth right now. So we have integrations with the major POSs. And so you see a notification in your point of sale and that there's an order that's going to be fulfilled by the robot. A ticket gets printed with a little logo with a QR code. And you come outside with your bag and the food, you show it to the robot, and now the robot knows exactly where to deliver. And so you just like put it in, and there it goes.
Wow. And so when someone places an order, like I'm just trying to envision this. I'm placing an order on a delivery app, whatever. Let's say Uber Eats or DoorDash, doesn't matter. But I place the order. Is it then it goes to the POS, and then is it based on the postal code or something, or the zip code that it'll assign to the robot versus a driver? Like, how does that process work? I'm just trying to understand, like, how does it know not to assign it to a delivery driver and assign it to Tiny Mile?
Yeah, we do that optimization. So, for example, if it's raining in Brickell, there are basically no human couriers, and humans would be a really bad service. And so we always use robots when it's raining.
Okay.
The robot doesn't mind getting wet. If we have limited capacity now, so all the robots are fully utilized. And so if we don't have robots available, then we have to send a person. And so there's an entire sort of like optimization that we do. We also want to start doing some sort of like synergies between humans and robots. So maybe you pick up from two places with robots, they meet at some point, and the person
picks it up.
picks it up. And so it's quite a complex optimization. And that we're just starting to tackle.
Wow, that's super interesting. And so at any given night, let's say, like, I know you guys are in Miami. I assume you're probably in other markets, or is Miami the main market right now?
We're very much focused in Miami right now.
Okay, cool. And so, like, let's say how many robots you have on a given night that are kind of roaming the streets?
Yeah, maybe 100 robots could be roaming at a given night.
Wow. Okay, it's super interesting. And if it's like a high-end restaurant, or not high-end, sorry, high-volume restaurant, does it ever make sense that like certain restaurants, keep a robot there for the night because they have so many orders? Or is it really that when the orders are made, you guys have enough robots that they'll know which place to go and pick it up and deliver it?
Yeah, we have a central hub that the robot leaves in the morning and they come back at night. And it makes my day seeing this. There's nothing more fun than opening the door at night and see all of them just come after a long day of work, and you just plug them in.
And they all recharge.
Wow. They all recharge. I pet them one by one. But it's that's kind of basically the cost of moving the robot is very low from our hub to whatever merchant. And so instead of explaining them, how to store it, how to take care of them, asking them for space or anything, it's just more efficient to like centrally locate all the robots.
That makes sense. And I'm curious to know what kind of, with any venture, there's always, things you stumble on, walls you hit. I'm sure you've hit a ton of walls just with the complexity of what you're building. But I'm curious on the robotic side, like, what are some walls you hit that maybe you didn't anticipate, being in Miami? Like, I guess weather overall is not bad, right? Like, you don't have to worry about snow but like, I'd love to hear, like, what kind of walls or things did you hit that you're like, shit, we didn't think about this.
That's a good point. We used to operate in Toronto, and snow was such a hard challenge that we had all this like fake snow inside our office, and we'll run them. And getting to go over like 5 or 6 inches was super hard. When we went to Miami, it was so easy in comparison.
Wow.
One of the biggest one has been the rain. Like when it rains in Miami,
it rains hard. Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
And
it rains hard.
so, yeah, we thought we had, something watertight, but water kept coming in.
And now would you say it's pretty watertight after, I guess, a lot of iterations?
It's a lot better. It's
Okay,
never perfect. Like we're gonna keep
right.
improving this for the next 100 years. But
Wow.
they work well on the rain, and comparatively better than people, right? It's like impossible to get anything delivered in the rain in Miami, and you have to wait 2 hours,
It's
and
true,
so
yeah.
it's good to be able to provide that kind of like differentiated service in the times where it's most needed.
Right. And I'm super curious for the restaurants. Like, obviously, it's super novel, super interesting. I think for the client, like you said, it makes sense. They maybe get it faster. It's quick. Um, what are the main kind of benefits that the restaurant gets? Is it cost savings? Is it? I'd love to hear kind of like because we have a lot of restaurateurs that listen. So if they're in Miami and they're thinking about like, oh, this sounds interesting. I'd like to try this. Check out tinymile.ai. What are some of the benefits that they can realize by using you guys?
Yeah, it's quite a combination. So the average restaurant that does, let's say, 20 or 30 orders a day, they're saving something like 30K per year by working with
Okay.
us. And that's a little money for a small mom and pop restaurant. And then these are other advantages. So the advertisement is included, and so they get more customers. The reliability is very high. There's like great trackability. It's common that the eater complains that the fries are missing and so on. Well,
Hmm.
we have a lock container that can only be unlocked with someone's phone, with the eater's phone, and then we have video tracking and so on along the way,
Wow.
and so can really guarantee, what we're carrying. And then this like opportunity for interaction with the eater, that it's also kind of fun. So the robot has a little speaker, so it can say, Angela, thank you so much for ordering an ice cream. Why don't you try a coffee next time? Uh,
Wow.
and so
Okay.
there's all these little things to delight the customer. And so
That's
all in,
really
it's a good service.
That's really interesting. And so, logistically, when you guys go to a city, in this case, Miami, what's the radius that you guys? Because I imagine obviously you have to stay within a certain radius, right? Last mile delivery. So, like, typically, I'm assuming you go to like the downtown cores or the densely populated areas where there's high volume, high traffic, good amount of restaurants. So, I guess in Miami, probably downtown slash Brickell area. Um, how far can these robots go? So, like, what's when you look at a geographic area, what's Tiny Miles' current radius?
Yeah, you're right. So we built sidewalk robots, and these are best suited for the dense cities. And so we can do about a mile and a half to 2 miles in this 20-minute time.
Okay,
And so that's
that's
really where we can offer a great service. If we need to do any more than that, that's when we start combining humans and people
okay,
to get to 3, 4, 5 miles.
okay,
And so it is a good service for the dense cities.
okay.
Eventually, we hope to again increase the speed, maybe do something that goes on the road, and that's when the doors opens to now start doing 5, 6 miles, and that's pretty good for most American cities.
That's really neat. And I'm assuming these robots like this, so there's enough power that they can be out all day, or do they often go back to the hub to recharge, or just end of day?
No, battery lasts the entire day, and
Oh
so
wow,
the real distance that the robot can do is like 100 miles. Like if you wanna, go on a straight line for 20 hours, you can go pretty far with them.
wow. Okay, so now I hear a bit of the restaurant side. A lot of benefits. It doesn't sound like there's much setup either, right? Because you integrate with their POS, so there's not much friction for them. So, what about the client side? So, you mentioned the lockbox. So, is there anything the client needs to on their end? Is it an app they have to download? Is it web based? So, just to I'm at home now. I order. I'm living, let's say, downtown Miami. I see a robot at my front door of my condo. I'm assuming I go down, or does it come up? That'd be really cool if it came up. Does it go to the lobby? I'm
It
assuming.
it doesn't. No, it's
Okay, okay,
curbside.
okay. So
So
it goes right outside. Okay,
that's right. So as you said it, you get a text message with a tracking link. You can see where the robot is, and then you press a button in this app, and you unlock the lead. And
Okay,
so
cool.
it's
So it opens that up in a browser. You don't need to download anything. You have a code. The robot comes on the curb. Open it up. You're good to go.
That's exactly right. And
Wow.
it's also a good experience. Like the thing can wait for you if you have a little delay. And this experience is very reliable. You know that nobody mess up with your food, and it comes quicker. So instead
Wow.
of waiting 4 or 5 minutes, you wait, depending on the distance, maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so
And I
it's
can
yeah.
that's that's so cool. I can only imagine one thing that yeah, I mean many things, but one thing I'm thinking to your point about before with the ads and that virality, I'm imagining almost every guest or every, consumer I should say, the first time they order, I imagine they're taking like I'm putting myself in their shoes. I'm for sure taking a picture and uploading it to my
Oh,
Instagram. So
everybody. Yeah. We
right.
see the entire family. We see a lot of people just ordering to see the robot,
Wow.
like
That
families with kids.
that's
And
awesome.
I get
That's
so many
awesome.
emails every day from, my kid loved the robot. It's his birthday today. Can I put the cake inside and can you deliver it to the park?
Oh
That
wow.
happens all the time.
Wow. That's awesome because you guys have this like organic virality of just like people want to share it because it's such a novel thing. It's so neat, so new. It's so futuristic. I know it exists today, but it feels like something you'd see out of a movie, right?
Yeah, I really like the model. And so I really like basically what happened with the internet. Like the internet made the cost of moving information basically zero. Like
Hmm.
before I had to send you, a fax and I had to walk to the fax machine. It was so much effort. Now I can send you an attachment for, basically nothing. And it's so quick. And so if we could do the same things with objects, like if I could send you something, it's never going to be as good as the internet. But if I can
Right.
send you something for 10 cents and arrives to your place in 20 minutes, I think that opens the door to build so many companies on top. Same way we built
That's
so
really
many companies on top of the internet. And so now,
right.
you're good at, you know, building a flower set. If you want to sell flowers, now you just prepare the flowers in your apartment and put them in robots, and then you send them
Mm.
all over the city for a few cents, and super quick. Or you can share things. There's so many things you can build when you basically makes transportation so much more effective.
That's super
And
interesting.
and that's basically what we've done. So
And
we can now deliver for free. So anybody can use our API and build whatever they want and deliver stuff super quickly and for free. And we're
oh
lucky
wow.
enough that all these people are fascinated by the robot, and so all these eyeballs help us get advertisers to cover the cost of the business.
That's unreal. So I'd love to hear what would you say, and I think you touched a bit on it there, but what's your vision with Tiny Mile? I mean, it sounds like you alluded to a bit of it there with the parallel of the internet, but I'd love to hear from you. Like, where do you see Tiny Mile the next year, the next 3 years, and beyond?
Well, it's very hard to imagine that all deliveries that can be done by robots won't be done by robots. And so anything under these 2 miles that can basically be done by free and such a safe way and so on. Like all that has to be done by robots eventually. There might be some percentage that kind of go to the curbside and want to pay $8 and and wait longer and so on. But I think the large majority, we still have horses even though we have cars, and so
Right.
not all, not 100% will be done by robots, but I think the majority will be. And when that happens, now we're talking again about these hundreds of millions of deliveries that happens every month. And so it's hard for me to imagine any scenario in which that doesn't happen.
Right. That's
And
crazy.
and of course that's just a start. Then we're already doing a lot of R&D in increasing the speed. 20% in 2 months and 20% the next month and so on. And so at some point it's not gonna be 2 miles but 4 miles, and now it's only like 20 pounds. At some point it's gonna be 50 pounds, and so
Wow.
then start becoming then not only all the meals that you eat, it's gonna be all the groceries that you eat and so on.
That's awesome.
And I think it's like a cool vision in which we can save tons of time to people. So no, hey, 100 years ago, people, or a few hundred years ago, everybody used to make their own clothing, and now it's ridiculous. We buy our own clothing, but
Right.
nowadays we make our own food and spend 2 hours a day cooking, cleaning, taking the
Cleaning.
trash out, going grocery
Right.
shopping, and so on.
Yeah. Yeah.
But but if you can make delivery absolutely cheap, like instead of paying $8, you pay cents, and if you can manufacture food at a scale in a central location, I think there's a point, there's a threshold in which making a burger at home costs you, $4, but getting one delivered costs you $3.50.
That's
And
amazing.
so I think there's a threshold in which I think when we get to that point, we can say, let's say, 20 hours a week to 100 million people, and so 200 million hours, and I don't think we're that far.
That's really cool. And one question I have to ask, because I can imagine like people are thinking this: do people mess with the robot? So I wouldn't. I'd say a robot. I would probably take a picture, or video. But have you found that anyone's like messing with them or kicking with them? And I guess are people doing it? And then do you guys have a way to like track it if it happens? Like I'm just wondering. Like I feel like as you guys expand, it'll probably happen at some point.
One of the things that blown my mind the most, and as an Argentinian who never put a robot in Argentina, is that we haven't had a single robot stolen. So when I
Okay.
when I put my Tupperware robot in Toronto and put it there, I was like, "There's no way I'm bringing this back home. Like, I'm gonna drive this for 10 minutes. Someone's gonna take it." And it's been 4 years, and we still haven't, lost a single one.
Amazing. That's awesome.
We have people who like put a sticker. We have like very mild like vandalism like that. Some people want to like communicate with us and put their business card and put it on the top and so on. On the contrary, what has happened that has really blown my mind is how kind people are to robots.
Interesting.
Weirdly enough, I feel like they're nicer to the robot than to other people. I think they see it as a dog or something like that. It's like the stray dog from the neighborhood.
Right.
It's like
Right.
we have had cases, particularly at the beginning, which the robot will flip or anything like that, and people would like immediately within seconds like come and help out.
Wow.
Actually, some of the videos like most watching TikTok and whatnot are these videos of the robot getting stuck in the snow in Toronto and someone running with a
Helping.
phone and coming to video and coming to
Wow.
help, and the robot says thank you, and it's just crazy.
That's amazing. And I guess just to give our listeners an idea. So right now, Toronto, Miami is the main market. Where do you guys see yourselves going? Is it really just focusing here and growing here, or do you have plans to go to other big metropolitan areas?
Well, there are tons of economies of scale that one can have in a city,
Yeah.
and um, so I would love to be in Miami and have thousands of robots and have all these amazing synergies before we move to the second city.
That makes sense.
So we'll be in Miami for another 1 or 2 years.
That makes sense. That's awesome. And so for people who are listening and they want to learn more, can you tell them where they can find you? I mean, I know you mentioned TikTok videos, your website, so this is a chance for you to just kind of maybe share. We have a lot of listeners that just like learning about hospitality, and we have a lot of restaurateurs, so there's kind of both sides, but anything you want to share of where they can learn more about Tiny Mile.
Yeah, go to our website, tinymile.ai, and you can see our products and you can get in touch and you can benefit from advertisement. You can save 20 grand per month per year if you're a small business in delivery. And there's a lot of good service that we're offering these days.
I love it. Amazing. Well, Ignacio, thank you for being here on Whisking It All. It was a pleasure to learn about Tiny Mile. I've personally had the chance to see them around Miami. It's really novel when you actually see them in person, but to know that I'm now speaking with the guy, the brains behind it is a really cool thing. So I wish you all the best. And for everyone listening, tinymile.ai. Check it out for our restaurateurs. If you're in the Miami core, might be something you want to offer, to get better, give better service to your clients.
Thank you so much. This was fun.
This is awesome, man. We'll be in touch.
All right.
Feel free to check out whisk.ai for more resources and schedule a demo with one of our product specialists to see if it's a fit for you.